Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Jerrika Rydell. I'm Alex Harriman. We're two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thank you guys for being here and for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey, Jer.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I started this. Well, okay. I need to backtrack. I didn't start anything, but I wanted to start. We did a craft night about a week ago.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
With a bunch of girls, and like when we do these craft nights, we have them a couple times a year. Usually we're painting or we're making something for a holiday or for a gift or whatever. But everyone this year did something totally different. Like someone's sitting there and knitting, and someone else is sitting there and sewing, and then someone else is painting a sign. And it was just so, it made me start thinking about like the lost art of like knitting and sewing and how absolutely amazing it is. Like we received a gift of a blanket that someone actually took the time to sew, or actually it was knitting.
Yeah.
And it's the most amazing thing. And
Sure.
Pretty much 99% of people I know and my friends don't know how to do any of that. They can't even like sew a patch on their jeans. I don't even know if we do that anymore, but you know what I mean?
The thing is like cost of material now though. So like way back, probably before you and I were kids, people used to repair socks because it was worth it because it costs a lot, right?
Yeah,
and now you get like a 20 pack of socks for like $8. So it's like, well, there's no way I'm sitting down to repair a sock.
So the socks, the holes, yeah.
So even though like the homemade blanket's nicer and
so much nicer,
you can just get, they're just cheap now. So it's like most people are just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take 7 hours to make this blanket when I could just buy one for like $30.
It's true, but it's so amazing. And I'm like, I can sew. I think I can say that I can sew stuff. Like I can hem a pair of pants. And I used to be a really good knitter with my granny when I was a kid, but it doesn't stick with you if you don't don't keep it going. But
no, it's so true. So true. I wouldn't even know where to start. And I did some of that with my grandma growing up too, but I would have no idea where to start.
Now we're at the point where my granny, she'll actually put duct tape in her socks. It's her favorite socks and she refused to throw them out. So she'll just like duct tape the hole.
Love it.
And to the point where last week I did the same thing because I refused to get rid of my favorite pair of socks.
Love it. That's amazing.
I'm embarrassed to say this on the podcast.
I can't wait for people to reach out to you.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? Sending me socks. Do you guys want to know my address? I'll tell you.
All right, what do you got for a topic today?
Okay, I want to talk about getting out of a slump. You've been pretty open. I mean, it's been years or so, but you've been open about how, and myself too, but how you've been in slumps and ways you've gotten out of them, or whether you've hired a coach or what you did to change your routine. So I'd love to get your take on your past experiences. And then if we can just I have some tips and tricks and we have some other things to add into where people might be finding some help and where they might be struggling.
So the first thing I have to say is exactly what you just said there. Like, find a way to get out of or change your routine. That is so big, and it's been so big for me. We often think about what we were doing in the past that worked really well for us, but that's not always going to work really well for you again. So that's an important one for me, is like, if I was in a really good routine with like my garage workouts, for instance, and then now it's winter, it's cold out there, it's less appealing, I don't know, my schedule changes, something like that, and all of a sudden it's like, I really got to get back to those garage workouts, but those garage workouts have changed. Like the desire for them and the convenience of them isn't as present. So if I can take it back and be like, okay, I need to change routine or find what is going to work for me now, that helps me get out of a slump so much faster. So I've talked to you about this, but like one thing I did recently was join a gym, a group fitness gym, a CrossFit gym. And so that just by like having a new and exciting routine and somewhere to remove myself so it's not in the home has been really great for me. Do I think I'll go back to garage workouts at some point? Probably, because it's I've got all the stuff I need, but it wasn't fitting me at that time, and so this is. And it's nice to have it's nice to be able to stir up your routine like that. I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah, and that's what I have like kind of written as number one, is just changing, allowing yourself or accepting change, because like you said, it could be a different season in your life. And when we say season, we literally don't mean winter, summer, spring, fall. Like just because, yeah, you were doing X class last year doesn't mean that class is going to fit in your life. Maybe you have a new kid, or maybe you move cities, or so you have to roll with it. Trying a new class is huge. I was thinking you recently bought a walking treadmill, and I thought that's pretty cool because, you know, someone may have gotten a new job, and that new job entails them sitting for long periods of time, and now they're in a slump because they're a little more lazy and lethargic. But it's like, okay, well, let's try something different. And you got that walking treadmill where you're racking up however many steps and move calories or whatever you're tracking on per day. And it's just, that might be that little change that you need to be like, oh, I remember how good I feel when I move more.
Totally. Because I probably sit for like 6 to 8 hours a day. Like I know a lot of people sit longer, but I don't like that. That wasn't me a long time ago. So I had to find a way to change that, because even if I'm making time for workouts and getting outside for walks and things like that, I didn't like the feeling of sitting for 6 hours a day. So I love that it's even an option now, and it's become so much more accessible. Like I got my walking treadmill on Black Friday. I think it was like $250. Like it wasn't crazy. It's not the most high-end walking treadmill, but it certainly serves the purpose of what I need. Yeah, that's a big one for me, is stirring up your routine and changing what isn't working, right? Because I've fallen into this trap. I'm sure everybody listening to this has fallen into this trap where we get so stuck on what was working before that we aren't able to move forward. We get that kind of like decision paralysis, analysis paralysis, and it's the time I experienced it the most is when I broke my ankle. I was shook, because I was in such a good routine with my strength training at that point, and the fact that I couldn't squat anymore was like, it paralyzed me. I was like, I don't want to just work out upper body. Of course I should have worked out upper body, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to squat. And that took me a long time to get out of that rut, because I got so focused on the things I couldn't do instead of the things that I could do.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the points I had, actually, is just like reevaluating your headspace. When you're in a slump, it's like take the time to see what's going on up there. And for some people, it might be because they're prioritizing so many other things in their life, or other people specifically, or their kids, that they're not giving themselves that time, which could be causing a slump. So, you know, we could backtrack before we even go right back to the beginning of this podcast. And it's like, figuring out why you're in the slump is probably step number one, or what part of health and fitness, what part of this slump that you kind of want to address. But once you have that, and once you've figured it out, and if it is because you're prioritizing your young kids, then maybe self-care is something you have to focus on first. And self-care doesn't need to be, I have to walk, or I have to go to the gym, or I have to meal prep. It might just be like, I literally need to read a book every morning for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 30 minutes. Any type of time for yourself could just remind you kind of what your goals are forward. It'll just give you some mental clarity. And then from there, you can go into those health and fitness goals. So it doesn't always have to be, you know, just jump right into what you're doing before or what works. It's just self-care was one of the big ones I wanted to kind of touch on, and make sure you're putting yourself first and then diving into your goals.
I think that's really powerful. And I think if you think of it from a momentum standpoint, it's way easier to build momentum from something than from nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of trying to think of all the shit we have to fix, if we start with something like 5 minutes of self-care, it's way easier to build off of that than it is just to be like, how do I get back to 100%? So
Right.
starting with something small like 5 minutes of self-care can quickly turn into 10 minutes of self-care, can quickly turn into 5 minutes of self-care and 5 minutes of exercise on top of that. Like it's way easier to build momentum from something small. That's hugely beneficial.
Awesome.
Um,
And then, oh, go ahead.
no, you go.
I just wanted to talk about a past experience, and something that I do often is, we have the knowledge and we're able to coach ourselves and write our own programs, or we know what we're supposed to eat. But when these slumps come around, and you've done it before too, and you've openly talked about it, we hire coaches,
Oh yeah,
right, to help just guide us out of whatever that,
and
in
hold us
quotation, season of
accountable.
life. Yeah, exactly. It's
Honestly,
that
for me, like
accountability.
paying a coach is like, I'm not gonna fuck this up now because I put money on the line,
Yeah.
and this person's holding me accountable and I'm paying them to hold me accountable. So it's like I don't even really need that coach to do anything for me. I'm like, I've paid you now, be there.
Yeah. I just need to know that you're gonna check that I did it,
Yeah.
and then I'll do it. Exactly. And that's what it is for, honestly, 90% of the people we coach as well, right? It's just knowing that someone's going to be there to check on you, or someone may help you, guide you out of whatever, or help just figure out what's going on to get you out of that slump. So, and that kind of circles back to changing your routine or changing what you're doing. And sometimes a coach or accountability partner can help you with just that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that like buying coaching is buying a program or buying the specifics like that, what nutrition looks like, what the exercise looks like. And I agree that that's like a nice part of buying into a coaching program, but it really does come down to accountability. Like
Yeah.
it's having somebody in your corner to catch you when you start slipping instead of when you've fallen all the way off. Having somebody there to check in with you regularly, that's like, oh yeah, I got to keep going, that person's going to check in with me. That's the huge part of what you get out of coaching.
And it also kind of feeds into, talking about coaching and accountability. You can also join like a challenge or something. We talk about there's a time and place for doing a challenge, and there's different types. Some of that are ridiculously restrictive, and when you're in a slump, it may not be the best type when they try to restrict. But just joining some type of mini challenge, a walking challenge, just something. And again, it goes towards that accountability aspect, just to change it up and reshift your mindset a little bit towards having something to tackle each and every day.
um we talked about exercise, how you can get in the exercise slump, but I just want to reframe it from a nutrition standpoint too, because I know for me personally, I go through like big waves with nutrition where
Mhm.
um it matters more, I guess. Like your goal means more to you. And I think everybody experiences this, especially like with time of year. Like you might not care how lean you are in the winter versus you might want to be leaner in the summer or for a vacation, something like that. Um, when you go into one of these nutrition slumps, we have to approach it the same way as a movement slump too. We have to kind of re reset or reframe what we are capable of doing, because during a certain time of year it's crazy easy for me to like track my macros, weigh my food, make sure that I'm getting everything in because it matters to me at that point. But then I get to places where I'm like, I don't want to do that, I don't care about any of that. And if I just let myself get into like the all or nothing thinking, then it spirals and it gets worse and worse and worse. But if I'm like, okay, I'm not going to weigh things and measure things right now because I don't care enough, but I'm going to make sure I'm getting X amount of servings of fruits and vegetables, X amount of servings of protein, and I'm going to hit my bare ass minimums around nutrition, then that prevents you from regressing, and it allows you to, when it becomes really important to you again, bounce back really quickly.
Yeah. And I had made a note too about nutrition, and sometimes it's just simplification of everything, right? Like if it means that getting you out of that slump is now just buying a prepackaged salad at this point, because you need something simple, but you also want to choose better foods than, I don't know, whatever you were having before that was not good. Then do it, right? If it means you're buying pre-cut up vegetables because right now you just don't have the time, but again, we still want to work our way out of that nutrition slump, then do it. It's not like it has to be forever. Maybe it will be, in terms of the cut up vegetables for convenience, but it's just talking about finding what works in that phase of your life.
Totally.
And you will work your way out, and just make it a little easier for yourselves. Don't be so hard and feel like I have to do this because social media told me so.
Yeah, it's a great point. For me, baby carrots, they're so convenient.
Yeah, I'm on a huge right now. They're not baby carrots. They're like, I don't know how to describe them. They're like, have you seen them? They're like carrots in the shape of like a chip, a crinkle cut
Oh
chip.
yeah.
Yeah, those are my go-to. And it's just like I scoop some hummus, and so it's the best.
Yeah, see, like things like that. If I have a bag of carrots, I might eat it, but it might just all rot and go bad. But if I have if they're like easily digestible, I'm consuming that whole bag for sure.
Yeah, it's true. And they're just sitting there, and they're shaped perfectly. It makes a difference. It really does. And if that's what you need to do, then we're all for it. Awesome.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to touch on?
I kind of wanted to talk about quickly just the reverse. Like some people get in a slump because, and you might still be exercising regularly 5-6 days a week. Like you might be an extreme, you're always going, you're never missing, you're doing the workout, but you might still be feeling like you're in quote unquote a slump. And that could be a sign to do the opposite. And you might need to take a break. Again, it might not be completely stopping what you're doing. It might be changing the routine, or maybe you want to have a new focus in the gym, or finding a different class, or maybe you just want to walk for a while. Your joints might be telling you something different. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that there is kind of a flip side to being in a slump. And that could be because you've just been going so hard with fitness or so hard with nutrition for so long that it feels like it's no longer a priority. And that's when you guys take a step back and either go back to your bigger why, or go back to, writing out what your priority lists are. And maybe your priorities have shifted. And that's why we need to step back and reframe, because it is normal. And a lot of you might be on this side of the teeter totter, I guess.
It's a good point. I mean, I think most of our listeners are just trying to find a balance, right? Like we're most people listening to this aren't extreme fitness enthusiasts, but
right.
You still will go through those phases. You'll find a gym or routine you love, and you'll get in a good rhythm, and you'll start training really freaking hard, and you need what's called a deload. Like most of us naturally have deloads when we get sick, when we go on vacation, when we have family get-togethers, when we get injured. Like we take time off, and it allows the rest of our body to recover. But there's periods of your life where you're so consistent and you're training hard consistently that your body has to have deloads and time off. So it's definitely something to be aware of if you're experiencing that extreme fatigue or soreness, or just like mental burnout. Those things are really important.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of everything I wanted to touch on.
Okay, close this off. What do you got for a tip?
This is about the time of the year where on these podcasts I usually give your yearly reminder to get your blood work and get everything checked out, because I just received mine, and you think you could be feeling awesome, and you thought maybe you were just not sleeping that well, but turns out your iron levels are really low. And I mean, there's so many examples I can give, but I usually give a good reminder to everyone listening to get that blood work, to get your all your blood sugars, everything, cholesterol checked. Doctor can do that yearly for you. Super simple, but that could be a game changer in terms of how you're feeling day to day, or catching things early. So I'm a big advocate for yearly check-ins.
It's a good point. It's something that I definitely don't do annually, but it's a really, really good reminder.
Yeah, and it's quick and easy.
Awesome. Okay, guys.
If you don't mind blood.
Yeah, if you don't mind, bud. I always like watch it. Like I gotta
Yeah,
watch
me
them
too.
taking it, and I always wonder if they think that that's weird because I don't. I'm not like the person that wants to turn my head away. Like I want to see the whole process.
Me too. Yeah, it's funny. Awesome.
Okay, guys, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Do us a favor wherever you are listening, leave us a review, comment, share. Let us know what you think and reach out if you have any other questions.